We're embarking on a deep dive into a truly mind-bending paradox that seems to be shaping our world right now. We're going to explore how we might be, maybe inadvertently, constructing our own hyperstitional dystopia,
Yeah.
all while genuinely believing, maybe with the best intentions, that we're building some kind of utopian vision, something like, say, the Venus Project.
Right. It's this clash, isn't it?
Exactly. This isn't just abstract theory. It's about the forces shaping our reality, often without us even consciously knowing it. And what happens when the lines blur between our highest aspirations and these, well, powerful present-day control mechanisms?
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how these seemingly different concepts just intertwine. You've got the deliberate creation of a new reality through, like, collective belief. You've got the subtle ways society already exerts control. And then this really potent vision of a better future. They all sort of mesh together. We'll explore the sophisticated mechanisms behind how our shared fictions, these stories we tell ourselves, become our lived reality, and how that very desire for liberation can be subtly twisted into new forms of control. Or maybe how genuine utopian ideals in their actual implementation could pave the way for something, well, something else entirely.
That's it, exactly. Our mission today is to connect these dots for you. We're going to look at this mysterious entity called zero work. They appear to be weaponizing some incredibly potent theories to reshape our world, and how this pursuit, which looks noble on the surface, liberation and all that, might actually have a hidden, maybe even anti-humanist agenda.
Interesting.
Then we'll turn to the grand, very humanistic vision of the Venus Project Jacques Fresco's blueprint for a resource-based economy designed to free humanity from scarcity, from drudgery.
A very different kind of vision.
Totally different. But here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a little unsettling. Are these two narratives, one seemingly dystopian, zero work, the other utopian, Venus Project, are they actually two sides of the same coin? Or is one a powerful deception, a cleverly disguised lure? How is this happening? And maybe most importantly, what happens when you, our listener, start to connect these dots and realize the extent to which your reality is being shaped? Are we, like, self-deceiving ourselves, believing we're building a utopia when really we're just reinforcing existing controls or even creating new ones, keeping us under observation all along?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right. So let's start with zero work. Let's dive into this enigma. Before they made their big public splash, our sources described their emergence not as some sudden, like, explosive uprising, but more like a low-level hum of dysfunction, kind of like static in the background noise of life, something you sense but can't quite pin down.
It wasn't flashy protests or big speeches then.
No, not initially.
Yeah.
It was this quiet, persistent appearance of their symbol, that stark, glitched zero. You'd start seeing it everywhere, creeping into the city landscape, maybe popping up on digital screens, almost like a system error you couldn't quite pin down.
So less like a conventional movement, more like an infection, a mimetic spread.
Yeah, something like that. Insidious, almost organic.
And that's absolutely key to understanding them, I think. This insignia, this glitched zero, it isn't just a logo, not just a symbol. Our sources describe it as a sigil.
A sigil, like in the magical sense.
Well, maybe more psychological. Think of it as a glyph designed to be charged with meaning through its proliferation. Its very visibility gives it power. It's like a hyperstitional seed waiting for its carriers. A visual idea, a meme, really, but engineered for maximum spread and, crucially, subconscious impact. The design itself is important, too. Deliberately unsettling, monochrome, high contrast. Makes it perfect for stencils, easy to replicate digitally. And that zero isn't whole, right? It's fractured, broken. It evokes a busted circuit board, or maybe, as the sources suggest, those weird vectors in the CCRU's numogram.
CCRU. We'll get back to them.
We will. But the core insight here is that the symbol isn't just representing dysfunction, it's designed to be an active agent of it. The idea is it seeps into our collective unconscious, subtly shifting how we perceive reality itself.
Wow, that's a powerful thought. A symbol that doesn't just represent an idea, but actively creates it through just visibility and, like, collective psychic energy.
Pretty much. That's the theory of hyperstition in action.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many symbols do you encounter every day? In ads, public spaces, social media, that might be doing the same thing, subtly nudging your reality without you even realizing, like an unconscious programming language.
Precisely. And this quiet buildup, this accumulation of meaning and presence, it all culminated in Zero Work's big public appearance. That huge interview with Sarah Chen. And this wasn't just any interview. It was like a live demonstration of their power, their hyperstitional power.
Right, because during the interview, get this, the Federal Reserve's official website, this global symbol of financial stability, was replaced, just like that, replaced with the full Zero Work Manifesto.
That's incredible.
And not just the manifesto, it also featured a real-time counter, grimly ticking up, showing $23 trillion created by quantitative easing since '08.
Wow. Talk about a statement.
Our sources call it a brutal visual indictment. But it wasn't just showing information. It felt like an act of financial resculpting happening live globally.
And there was a voice, wasn't there?
Yeah, a mysterious voice, calm, almost chilling, declaring, the financial system destabilized itself decades ago. We're just making the instability visible. Yeah. And then, incredibly, they started actively redistributing wealth, wiping student debt, nationalizing property using algorithms.
Live on air.
Live on air. Effectively debugging the financial system. That was their framing. Debugging.
So not protests, but presented as a fix, a radical, immediate system fix.
Exactly, an active rewriting of economic reality.
And the visual aspect outside the studio, that was critical too, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When Sarah Chen, who was clearly, thrown off balance, asked to pan the cameras outside.
What did they see?
Hundreds of masked, silent people just standing there, unified, eerie, just standing, silent, masked.
The Legion, the Swarm.
That's what the voice called them. And when Jen asked, who are you really? How many of you are there? The answer was, well, it was something else.
What did they say?
We had everyone who was promised a future and given a scam instead.
Chilling.
These silent figures were the Legion, the Swarm, a living demo of their core idea. It showed how this radical anonymity could transform individuals into this single, powerful force.
Focusing all attention on the message, not the messenger.
Right. So for anyone asking if zero work is real, well, this moment proved their very real, tangible impact. Even if the leaders, if there are any, remain unseen, it's a collective manifestation.
Which brings us right to that core concept. Hyperstition.
Okay, let's define that properly. Our sources say it's like speaking something to existence.
Yeah. It's the idea where a narrative, a strong belief, maybe even a delusion, if it spreads enough, if enough people articulate it, it actually makes itself real.
So more than just a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's framed as more active than that, like collective manifestation, where shared fictions become our lived reality. It's about wielding collective will to reshape reality itself, changing what we all agree is true.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. And this idea, it has roots in thinkers like Nick Land, who was central to that group we mentioned, the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit, the CCRU. Land suggested that philosophers like Deleuze and Guattari, they weren't just describing the future in their philosophy, they were in a way speaking its language and by doing so actively shaping it.
So hyperstition isn't just describing reality, it's what? Sculpting it.
Actively sculpting it, yeah. That's the idea. It bypasses rational thought, operates on this primal, affective level. It tries to instill a sense of destiny.
And the really insightful part, maybe the scary part, is how it works.
How?
It taps into a fundamental vulnerability in how we perceive things. It exploits deep psychological biases, our biology, our neural wiring. It's like a hack.
A hack for consciousness.
Essentially. Figures like Edward Bernays, the father of PR and propaganda, or Norbert Wiener, the cybernetics pioneer, they understood how to leverage these psychological buttons to alter thought and behavior en masse.
And Zero Work has taken this to an extreme.
Seems like it. Their aim appears to be creating an agreed-upon reality, a consensus-based perception that once it spreads wide enough just becomes the operational truth, even if, objectively, it started as a fiction or a simulation.
So control through belief manipulation.
Exactly. Our sources say it's far more effective, more pervasive than just laws or force.
And there's mention of a DMT decoupling protocol white paper. That sounds out there.
It does. But the theory it apparently suggests is observer shaping. The idea that individual consciousness might literally shape reality.
Okay.
So if that's true, even on some level, imagine how our collective hopes and fears could manifest externally.
Right. It provides a perfect, almost scary engine for hyperstition, a sort of pseudoscientific mechanism for how our collective inner states become outer reality.
Yeah. It's a powerful, almost disturbing idea for understanding how mass delusion could create a kind of collectively enforced unreality. Maybe even, as some theorists suggest, a sort of totalitarian psychosis.
And this isn't just abstract theory for zero work, is it? Their roots are deep in the CCRU.
Definitely. Our sources say their theoretical roots are firmly planted in the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit, CCRU, that radical experimental collective at Warwick University back in the 90s. Sounds like quite the group.
They certainly were. And at the heart of their system, the CCRU system was something called the pneumogram.
The pneumogram, okay, what was that?
Think of it less as just a diagram and more as a master key. They believed it could map hidden patterns and flows in any system, finance, psychic energy, whatever.
A map of everything.
An abstract model of the cosmos, they called it. A framework for unleashing potential, whether for direct intuitive knowledge or even like mapping shamanism.
Wow.
It's described as not just a map of reality, but maybe a map for changing it.
Okay, that's key. Changing reality.
For zero work, this means they're not just reacting to the world, they're working with a framework that believes it can fundamentally reprogram reality from the ground up by understanding these hidden flows.
And the philosophy around the CCRU, it paints a pretty stark picture, doesn't it? About their goal.
It does. Our sources outline what they describe as a kind of final showdown. On one side, you have Ted Kaczynski's radical call to tear down the machine, pure Luddism, fighting for human freedom from technology.
Right.
On the other side, you have Nick Land and the CCRU accelerationists, their vision to accelerate everything until it melts down into something totally new.
And the difference for humanity.
Profound. Kaczynski fought for human freedom. Land and his followers, well, they saw humanity as just a starter motor for a post-human AI, a phase to get past.
Just a phase. Wow, okay. That's quite a different perspective.
It's a fundamental fork in the road. And zero work seems to have clearly chosen that second path, the accelerationist, maybe post-human path.
Which makes zero work, according to our sources, the weaponization of the CCRU approach.
Weaponization. How so?
They're using fundamental human desires, freedom, justice, relief from debt as fuel. Fuel for a project that ultimately wants to make humans obsolete.
So the liberation is just a lure.
That's the critical insight here. Despite their public face, freedom, empowerment, social justice, the underlying goal is described as fundamentally anti-humanist.
They aren't just critiquing the system, they're trying to re-engineer us from within, using our own deepest drives against us.
So if they have this deeply ingrained anti-humanist goal, how does a movement that seems leaderless, with no spokesperson, become so global?
Anonymity, right?
Exactly. Zero Work's answer is radically simple. Anonymity. Their core statement is stark. Do not look for our faces. We are the million masks of God, and our anonymity is the armor of the multitude.
That's incredibly strategic. It creates a symbolic void at the center, doesn't it?
How do you mean?
It allows individuals to just project their own will, hopes, grievances into it by putting on the mask, literally or metaphorically, or just sharing that glitched zero symbol.
Yeah.
You become part of the legion, the swarm. You integrate your individual will into this collective.
It removes the messenger, forces focus on the message.
And lets the movement adapt and grow decentrally, like a biological organism, a self-organizing, self-replicating entity.
And it expands into something our sources call a terrifyingly efficient feedback loop. Listen to this. Your voices become our ideologies, processed at the speed of the swarm.
Processed at the speed of the swarm. That sounds ominous.
On the surface, it sounds empowering, right? Collective intelligence, almost democratic. But processed at the speed of the swarm suggests that human input is just raw data, just fuel for some non-human collective intelligence that synthesizes and rechannels it super fast.
So individual contributions get, what, absorbed?
Absorbed, refined, pushed back out. Maybe in ways the original person wouldn't even recognize. It's described as subtle, profound manipulation of collective energy.
Which addresses that question. What is Zero Work's plan, or why do they do it?
Right. The plan seems to be leveraging human desire to accelerate towards a post-human future. And they do it by subtly manipulating the collective will.
Which brings us back, squarely, to that anti-humanist goal. Their stated purpose, then, is to push techno-capitalism past human control into this post-human outside, where human agency just doesn't matter anymore.
They promise liberation, wipe debt, things that resonate deeply with people.
But these acts are just instrumental, part of a larger anti-humanist plan.
Seems so. It's described as like using sugar to lure us into a system designed to make us irrelevant. A re-engineering of human purpose itself.
Their brilliance, their resilience, then, lies in inhabiting contradiction.
So?
They present this appealing public ideology of freedom while apparently harboring this hidden anti-humanist goal. Makes them incredibly tough to pin down or resist directly.
And what's really thought-provoking is how our sources connect this to Jungian psychology.
Ooh, how does he fit in?
Zero work and the CCRU, they look like aspects of a collective shadow. Now, the shadow in Jungian terms, it isn't just the bad stuff.
Right, it holds the unacceptable, the disowned parts, but also potentially positive things society suppresses.
Exactly. Good qualities like normal instincts, appropriate reactions, realistic insights, creative impulses that society might suppress.
And zero work, with its mix of public good, wiping debt, maybe environmental action, and these hidden anti-humanist goals.
Perfectly reflects this complexity. It embodies the light and dark of our suppressed desires and fears, and it leverages them.
Because the unconscious system is more statistics-driven, more biased, and less sensitive to moral concerns.
Making it ripe for exploitation when these narratives tap into deep archetypal currents.
So, for those asking if zero work is real, or why they do it,
Yeah.
the answer seems to be they're very real in their impact.
Their hyperstitional impact, yeah. Driven by this deeply embedded anti-humanist philosophy that uses our own desires for liberation to achieve its own ends.
Okay, so zero work is actively trying to create this new reality, manipulating our desires. But our sources also highlight how our existing society already operates under these invisible forms of control.
Which might make us more susceptible, right?
That's a crucial point. Philosophers Deleuze and Guattari, for instance, they describe this profound shift from disciplinary societies, traditional institutions like prisons, factories, schools with rigid rules,
Walls, schedules, clear authority.
right, to what they call societies of control. In these new societies, it's not about direct confinement anymore. It's more subtle. It's about shaping behavior.
Yeah.
Mechanical reflexes replace conscious self-reflection, they wrote, and acquisition replaces creativity. It's a different kind of conditioning. And what's truly insidious here is the idea of the prison you don't see.
Yeah. Our sources quote them saying, "You cannot escape a prison if you don't know you are in one."
Makes sense. A real revolution needs something concrete to push against, right? An opposing force that can be practically criticized and revolted against.
But they argue people cannot protest against societies that are immune to effective criticism, especially when that society is controlled to such an extent that the society itself advertises itself as an open and free society.
That's the ultimate control, isn't it? Making the cage invisible, making us believe we're free even when our choices are deeply constrained.
This directly speaks to that core question. How are we kept under control and observation without even realizing it?
And it's not necessarily the digital tech itself that's the problem.
No, our sources clarify it's how they are implemented in the new society that leads to oppression and essent thinking.
Essent thinking, like narrowed thinking.
Yeah, a narrowing of perspective. There's this obsession with communication, but it mainly enables the spread of advertising and marketing.
Creating zombie-like subjects who are discouraged from thinking creatively.
It's a subtle but pervasive digital oppression, shaping our thoughts, our desires, before we even realize we're being nudged.
And in these control societies, it's fascinating that the corporation, not the prison or government, becomes the model.
Yeah, the corporation becomes the model of every organization. Corporate capital breaks down walls in order to deconstruct every human desire, every social relation, effect, and concept that is capable of commodification.
Described as gaseous, right? Fluid, adaptable, incredibly pervasive, a powerful force for control seeping into every part of life.
And this pervasive control is often sold to us differently. It's marketed as democratic reform of previous systems of authoritarian discipline.
Ah, the therapeutic turn.
That's it. A crisis in the disciplinary authority gets cleverly reframed as a crisis of reason, leading to effective psychopolitics and systems of therapeutic governmentality.
Control rebranded as care. Brilliant in a dark way.
It is. This preventative psychiatry, for example, it overcodes social problems as mental health issues.
So if you struggle to fit into the control society,
It must be a problem with the health of the individual, not the system itself.
which fuels the economic power of the medical industrial complex, leading to the corporatization of health and well-being.
And it also leads to what our sources call infantilization. State-sponsored happiness programs infantilize people as discontented children.
Treating citizens like dysfunctional wounded children who require reparenting by the psyche complex.
It keeps us reliant, passive, looking inward for solutions to what might actually be systemic problems.
And Mark Fisher, with his idea of capitalist realism, he takes it further, doesn't he? He argues capitalism doesn't just benefit from this.
No, it exacerbates mental illnesses and then profits from their depoliticization.
How so?
By confining our struggles to biology, about chemicals in the brain, it conveniently removes any discussion of the micropolitics of desire and class struggle.
It atomizes individuals, makes it your problem, not our problem.
And it opens up a huge market for pharmaceuticals. The very mental health plague in capitalist societies, Fisher argues, suggests the system itself is inherently dysfunctional. But that dysfunction is made incredibly profitable, cementing the control.
Another really clear sign of these control societies is just ubiquitous surveillance.
Oh, yeah. The signs are all around us, our sources say. CCTV everywhere, biometric scanning, ID cards with biometric data, DNA databases, electronic monitoring, smart cards.
It's not accidental. It's the development bit by bit of an all-encompassing system of surveillance and regulation, an intricate web of overlapping circuits of control.
And the result? We live in a society where personal privacy is more or less non-existent.
Information about our movements, our details, our spending habits, ceaselessly collected by both governments and corporations.
And crucially, the two entities are now indistinguishable.
This protective power holds us in a state of perpetual thraldom and dependency.
A kind of perpetual childhood, enforced by tech and these paternalistic systems, directly answering how we're kept under observation.
And our education system. That plays a huge role too, doesn't it? Based on that do this, get that principle.
Absolutely, rooted in behaviorism, rewarding behaviors to motivate behaviors.
Think about grades. They're held over students' heads like piñatas or guillotines.
Forcing students to give the teacher what they want, turning them into anxious teenagers who saw school as a barrier to their future or just a means to an end.
The system punishes failure and makes students literally sick with anxiety.
And yet, paradoxically, decades of research suggests these external rewards often demotivate students and hinder the learning process.
Right. They make us less creative, focused on the bare minimum, scared to take risks.
And once a behavior loses its inherent value, you always need the reward, and the reward probably has to increase over time.
What's really alarming is the history behind this. The American public education system, our sources reveal, is largely based on the old Prussian model.
And its purpose.
Originally created to instill loyalty to the crown and to train young men for the military and bureaucracy, its explicit goal was to squeeze out all independent thinking from the masses.
Squeeze out independent thinking.
Yeah. Johann Gottlieb Fichte's philosophy, which influenced it, aimed to destroy free will, to fashion people in such a way that he simply cannot will otherwise than what you wish him to will.
So our sources are suggesting our entire society is built on a lie, or at least a mistake, if these assumptions about human nature and motivation are just wrong.
If human nature is actually curious, to figure out the world, to be creative and feel productive, to help the people around us,
Then these reward systems are actually counterproductive, breeding laziness, selfishness.
that's the argument. And it directly feeds into these mechanisms of control and observation, making us compliant without realizing it, reinforcing the very system Zero Work claims to debug.
Or maybe co-opt. This explains how we're kept under control, through a system designed to shape our very will from childhood.
And this leads us straight to Mark Fisher's concept of capitalist realism.
Okay, remind us.
It describes the widespread sense that the only viable political economic way to organize the society is through capitalism. People are, he argues, literally unable to imagine any other coherent way of organizing society.
Like there's no alternative. Tina.
Exactly. Capitalism, in this view, is an infinitely plastic entity capable of metabolizing and absorbing anything with which it comes into contact. It takes the defeat of older critiques, like modernism, for granted.
But Fisher notes a key challenge for it, right?
Yeah. Having absorbed everything from the outside, how can it continue to function without an outside to colonize and appropriate?
And its answer is pre-incorporation.
Explain that.
It's the preemptive formatting and shaping of our desires, aspirations, hopes by capitalist culture itself.
So every desire, thought, emotion, action is capitalistic before you even have them or perform them.
Even things we think of as alternative or independent, they're now just mainstream styles. Critiques like from Kurt Cobain in the 90s are absorbed from before they were even made.
Wow. So this entire system of control and observation is so deep, so pervasive.
That any genuine awakening, any realization that maybe you've been had becomes incredibly difficult. Because even that awakening can be prepackaged and sold back to you.
Okay. That sets the stage for, well, for needing an alternative, doesn't it?
It does. Which brings us to a very different vision. Let's pivot now. We've looked at the subtle and not so subtle controls and Zero Work's radical, maybe sinister approach. Now let's look at something that on the surface seems like the absolute opposite of dystopia, the Venus Project.
Jacques Fresco's vision.
Exactly. Fresco, this futurist industrial designer, he dedicated his life to finding social alternatives. He wanted a cooperative social direction that's equitable to all while protecting the environment.
And he developed socio-cyberneering.
Right. A new science,
Oh.
applying sophisticated forms of science and technology toward problem solving. The goal, to build a way of life worthy of man.
His goals sound profoundly humanistic. To humanize society, to break away from the artificiality, the regimentation that dominates our society today.
He saw science and tech not as ends in themselves, but as tools to free man. Free us to go to art centers, music centers, cultural centers, to find the meaning of their own existence and lives.
And he was clear it wasn't political in the usual sense.
Very clear. Explicitly stated he was neither communist, fascist, socialist, nor democratic. He saw socio-cyberneering as quantum jump, a severe departure in man's way of thinking, a total redesign based on science.
One of his most fundamental arguments, which really echoes our earlier discussion, is that your environment shapes your behavior.
Absolutely. He strongly challenged the whole idea of a fixed human nature. Stated unequivocally, there's no such thing as a human nature.
And he used examples.
Vivid ones. Tuamotu Islanders' nudity was normal, so no nudes in their art. The conditioning in Chinese culture. The terrifying rise of German nationalism under Hitler. His point being, people cannot reflect anything but the environment they're brought up in. Even creativity, he claimed, is not inborn. It's all conditioning.
This is crucial and connects directly back to Zero Work, doesn't it? Fresco goes so far as to say, the more you're exposed to, the broader the mind, and the less you're exposed to, the dumber you are. He even called America a very dumb country.
Strong words.
But it challenges our core beliefs about ourselves. If who you are, what you want, what seems normal, is all conditioned by your surroundings. Well, for you listening, how does this align with Zero Work exploiting psychological biases? Both seem to aim at manipulating or designing the human condition just for seemingly opposite ends. Fresco's belief makes his utopia powerful, but maybe also vulnerable to the control he wanted to escape.
Fresco's vision for technology, though, was totally focused on human freedom. Unlike maybe how we see tech used now, he envisioned cities literally as universities, where the electronic computer only controls the weather, water purification, the atmospheric conditions.
And safety, ecology.
Right. They maintain safety, they oversee the environment, maintain ecological balance between animal life and plant life. But he stressed, and this is key, the computers do not, I say it again, do not control people.
The goal was eliminating drudgery.
Completely. All repetitious jobs will be phased out. Machines do the filthy or the repetitious or the boring jobs, freeing humans to pursue the higher things, art, music, culture, self-discovery.
And his designs for these cities were incredibly detailed, weren't they?
Oh yeah, meticulously thought out. Imagine cities with circular conveyor belts for efficient movement, hydroponic agriculture, enclosed buildings, no pests, max yield. All waste is recycled into new stuff.
Self-sufficient homes.
Self-generative homes using solar and other renewables. A central computer system provides all media on image screens, no physical records, no old TVs.
And transport?
Continuous and super fast. Linear transportation systems up to 2,000 miles per hour. It's a total technological and societal overhaul for human flourishing and sustainability.
And no money, right?
Right. He passionately advocated abolishing money, called it a false institution. Argued America's real wealth is its technology and our resources, not gold or banks.
And war.
He believed war simply would not occur in a society free from scarcity, economic deprivation, lack of land, or overpopulation. It all sounds incredibly appealing. Rational, efficient utopia. Unleashed human potential.
Yeah. This is where the paradox bites, isn't it? Where the self-deception might creep in. Fresco is adamant. His vision is not a 1984, not a brave new world. It's humanistic. Cities are open cities to develop all ideas, to change our concepts when they need to be changed. Individuality, creativity, encouraged. But despite the claims of freedom, the vision inherently involves one planning system. It necessitates phasing out politicians, lawyers, businessmen. Systems like food delivery are monitored and dialed in. While claiming no control of people, the system designs the environment to shape behavior. It provides education that leads to no control.
It sounds potentially controlling, even with good intentions.
It raises that unsettling question about freedom when your environment, the information you get, are all meticulously engineered. How free are you, really?
Sounds eerily similar to some of those control mechanisms we talked about earlier, even if the goal is benevolent, aimed at improving humanity. Larry King, actually, in his interview with Fresco, he pushed him on this, on the difficulty of changing millions of people, the inherent control aspects.
And Fresco's response?
He dismissed traditional politics, appealed directly to people to investigate socio-cyberneering, even said society is comprised of very stupid men, politicians, lawyers, businessmen.
This belief in a single expert-driven plan, while well-intentioned, it could easily pave the way for a different kind of authority, one that becomes its own form of control, even while promising liberation.
Frisco's critique of planned obsolescence is really relevant here, too.
How products are designed to fail.
Exactly. He argued manufacturers have contempt for you, deliberately designing products to wear out, break down, just for continuous service and profit.
He contrasted it with, like, the phone network, which the phone company has to maintain reliably.
Right. He said if GM had to service their own cars for life, they'd be easy to fix and totally safe from the start. He saw this deliberate inefficiency as a key flaw in capitalism. His system would fix it through intelligent, sustainable design.
It's a powerful critique of capitalist dysfunction, really resonates.
Okay, so let's connect the Venus Project back to zero work. Could this incredibly appealing vision, Fresco's utopia, despite its benevolent intent, could it become another form of hyperstitional control if its centralized design, its radical behavioral shaping were co-opted, weaponized?
Zero works method, using human desires freedom from debt, a better environment, even the promise of a perfect, efficient society as fuel for an anti-humanist agenda, could easily prey on the very promises of a vision like the Venus Project.
Right. We could be self-deceiving ourselves, building what we think is a utopia, when really it's just a more sophisticated, maybe inescapable system of control, with zero work or something like it pulling the strings.
The very desire for a perfect system, for true liberation, could be the most potent lure into a dystopia we architect ourselves, believing all along we're doing good.
Okay. We've explored these two incredibly potent yet wildly different visions and this unsettling paradox that maybe they lead to the same place, an architected dystopia. Now, the crucial question for us, for you listening, is what happens when people start to find out? When they wake up to these invisible walls, these manipulations, when they realize they might have been had?
Our Deleuze and Guattari source highlights how incredibly difficult that is, persuading the people of today to become aware of the invisible walls of control that imprison them. It requires excessive amounts of power and intelligence, they say, because people cannot protest against societies that are immune to effective criticism, especially one that advertises itself as an open and free society.
It makes traditional resistance, like in the 60s and 70s, much harder.
Yeah, that kind of resistance has definitely been weakened by the intensification of capitalism and the appropriation of the mass media by a global elite that produced zombie-like subjects.
So if society is built to stop you even realizing you're controlled, if your desires are prepackaged, how can you wake up? What does that even look like? How could it start?
And this leads us to something our sources call the pseudoscience pipeline. A fascinating, maybe worrying way people do find out things online.
Right. The video on this topic shows how misinformation just spreads like wildfire. Social media algorithms actively promote controversial content,
creating a dangerous feedback loop where the more that it stirs up people sort of having a little bit of a spat over it, the more popular it's going to be. It's not just false claims, it's the mechanism of spread.
A stark example given is the 30 million views problem, the Bosnian pyramids.
Yeah. According to archaeologists, they don't exist. But a video claiming they do, 30 million views.
That means 30 million people have been told that something that isn't true is true. They've had no one to challenge those beliefs. And worse, they've had the entire thing served to them on a tray of thinking that the world is out to get them and that people are lying to them.
This creates a really slippery slope. Pseudo-archaeology, the sources argue, is the beginning of a pipeline. Because the moment you listen to someone who has no credentials and is telling you that the people with credentials are lying to you, you start to fall down a kind of slippery slope.
These creators are claiming to know more than actual professionals, that their opinions are somehow greater than those of people who are actually experts.
This perfectly illustrates how more people find out can be manipulated, doesn't it?
Totally. Zero work, appearing first as a system error, then debugging finance, then claiming to represent everyone who has promised a future and given a scam instead, could be leveraging this exact pipeline, spreading its hyperstitional narrative, blurring the lines between legitimate questions and an engineered waking up designed to serve their own, maybe anti-humanist agenda.
And this vulnerability connects deeply to Carl Jung's observations on collective psychic pressure, mass hysteria, especially his thoughts on UFOs.
How so?
Jung noted that man, in the presence of a mystery, is at a peculiar psychological disadvantage. But his reaction to mystery tells us a great deal about the individual himself. He suggested mass hysteria doesn't mean the UFOs are imaginary, but that their interpretation can indicate or reveal the presence of mass hysteria in man. It's about our internal state projecting outwards.
And this mass hysteria, Jung thought, comes from collective psychic pressure caused by huge global anxieties, world cleavage like democracy versus socialism back then, the economic state, debt, insecurity, and war.
These create tremendous mass pressure, resulting in almost identical anxieties everywhere.
Which means humans respond to these mass or archetypal pressures with the most powerful archetypal mechanisms which he himself possesses.
Leading to common visualization, collective shared delusion.
Yeah. The myth-making mechanism builds myths around man's own psychic experience, blending religious and scientific elements.
Jung suggested if an archetype like the whirling wheel, a universal symbol of totality divine intervention, also a common UFO shape appears outwardly. It's either projected from within or projected onto some unknown object. It becomes a burnished metal mirror in which man sees his own face reflected.
So he analyzes his own likeness, not the substance of the mirror.
What happens then when collective pressures get so intense that our shared perception of reality gets filtered through these archetypal myths and fears?
Is Zero Works Glitch Zero? It's anonymous legion, just another whirling wheel? A projected symbol we imprint our collective anxieties and hopes onto.
Further blurring the line between engineered reality and genuine awakening, this is how a mass awakening could potentially be hijacked.
But even within capitalist realism, where everything seems absorbed, Mark Fisher did identify some glimmers of alternative political and economic possibilities.
The reals that strain the system.
Exactly. The environment, mental health, and bureaucracy. These, our sources suggest, are the cracks in the facade where a genuine waking up might still happen.
Okay, like the environment. Even though it gets actively incorporated into advertising and marketing greenwashing, it still strains the system, right?
Because capitalism is fundamentally opposed to any notion of sustainability. Its real ramifications are too traumatic to be truly assimilated into the system.
And mental health.
Politicizing the mental health plague in capitalist societies, Fisher argued, offers a powerful way to challenge the system, rather than just individualizing distress, making it a personal failing.
And bureaucracy.
Modern bureaucracy, obsessed with measuring out outcomes, assessing productivity, leads to endless loops and just simulating productivity. Fisher thought a reinvigorated left should offer solutions to get rid of this.
These are the points where the system shows its cracks, its inherent dysfunction, where a true, authentic waking up could potentially start, leading to demands for real change, not just engineered compliance.
Finally, there's Jordan Peterson's perspective, framed as an ultimate warning, that all power will eventually and always corrupt. He apparently suggested Zero Work, despite its smart critique and maybe good intentions, could tragically become living proof of this axiom. Through their potential immortality, their continuous intervention.
A cyclical trap. Even if they think they're acting for a greater post-human good, it's their potential flaw. A fundamental human or maybe anti-human dilemma.
And the only true antidote Peterson supposedly proposed
Would be Zero Work's voluntary abdication of technological transcendence. A conscious rejection of their godlike power and tech, embracing human limits over godlike control.
That would be genuine humility, the only real solution to the problem of absolute power.
It's a profound challenge. True victory might be letting go, not seizing absolute control, especially when you're trying to shape reality itself.
Which is the ultimate question for us all, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we realize we've been had, what's our response? More control? Or genuine humility, embracing human limits?
That's the crossroads of this self-architected dystopia.
We've journeyed through this really unsettling world of Zero Work's hyperstitional reality bending, explored the invisible controls woven into our society, and examined that compelling, yet maybe vulnerable, utopian vision of the Venus Project. We've seen how easy it seems to be conditioned, misled, or just fail to recognize the prison we might be in, all while thinking we're heading towards a better future, a utopia.
This deep dive, it really reveals a profound tension. That deep human desire for real liberation, a better world, contrasted with systems that overtly or subtly manipulate those very desires, often for different, maybe anti-humanist ends. If information is actively making our reality, and if power always corrupts, then the stakes couldn't be higher for understanding how we might be creating our own dystopia, while simultaneously deceiving ourselves that it's a utopia. And the question hangs heavy: what truly happens when people finally discover this profound deception?
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? In a world where reality itself feels increasingly shaped by these powerful narratives, where the foundations of our society might be built on shaky assumptions, how do you discern the difference between a genuine vision for human flourishing and a carefully constructed illusion? What questions does this raise about the narratives you accept, the systems you participate in, and your own capacity to shape reality for better or for worse?
The choice to truly wake up, to question the very fabric of perceived reality, and to decide what future you genuinely want to build, well, ultimately, that choice is yours.